David, welcome for joining us today. Why don't you let us know who you are and your company and how long you've been involved in Strategic Coach?
Great. Well, thanks for having me here, Gary. I love it. David Kolbe. So been involved in Strategic Coach. The company has almost from the beginning of Coach. We do the Kolbe Index. So as I think most of the listeners will know, that's been part of Coach for 33 or so years. Again, like so early, I don't know exactly. I personally have been at Kolbe for 25 years. My mom actually founded it. And I've been in Coach myself in 2 different stints for a total of about 9 years now.
Well, we talked just before getting on because I've been involved in Coach for 33 years. So Kolbe has always been there, and I've been a coach for 28 years. So I've seen thousands, not like you have, but thousands of Kolbes, and use it in our own company and all of our hiring. And met your mom and Will, and of course Amy. And so it's great to have the pleasure to meet with you today. So, just thinking about that, what inspires about you about being an entrepreneur? What is it that you've enjoyed about doing that?
It's the chance to change people's lives, and that's both internally and externally when you think of the company. I think as an entrepreneur, you're more connected to the people you're working with and the clients because, you're still in it. You helped create it, you're running it, and so you see the difference in people's lives that you make, usually, hopefully, in ways that you've planned, like certainly with clients, we get to help them achieve the things they care about most, but also with the people, on our team. It's just a blessing to have that opportunity.
It's got to be very gratifying, because particularly Kolbe is a very unique organization, got a unique skill. What you bring to other entrepreneurs as well, other entrepreneurial organizations.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun. But I love entrepreneurs because almost no matter what they're doing, so yes, we have something that's really directly connected to helping people achieve the things they care about. But whatever the business is, entrepreneurs are in the business of bringing something to their clients that improve their lives. I mean, they're not going to succeed unless somebody wants to buy what they're offering. And, again, that's one of the things that's, I think, inspiring about being an entrepreneur is seeing those needs and meeting them. And sometimes people don't even know that need is there until they realize, oh my gosh, what you're telling me about your product or service, that'll make my life better, so I want to buy that.
Well, the other thing that I've really appreciated about Kolbe, and there's 2 aspects. One, I'll talk about the business one first, is that you get to get an understanding of what the other person is, who they are, what they're thinking about, how do they respond to information, because we all don't respond the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all of our biases typically are, they start with us. And especially because people were not taught about what this conative part of the mind is, they just think, well, the way I take action, the way I do things, that's the way everybody must do it. And then when they get that discovery of, no, everybody's not like me, it relieves some of the pressure off of them almost. As we were talking again right before we started, with different strengths. So my strength and follow through is to be very open-ended and adaptable and take shortcuts. But when I realized there's somebody with the opposite strength who's systematic and structured and organized, wow, I love leaning on them rather than having this attitude of, how come they're so rigid? It's like, I love that they're so thorough and organized. So it flips your mindset.
Yeah, and for us, it's become a really important part of our organization because we carried it on from getting unique ability statement and Kolbe and Strengths Finder, and we call it. We have a little plaque for everybody we call Unique Strengths. And really it's been very helpful for each one of the people, even though not being entrepreneurs, to know who they are and also to help us interact with each other. I mean, it's been an invaluable piece for us.
I love that. Thank you for using it.
Yeah. And the other one I wanted to talk on a personal front was that, because my wife and I did this probably 25 years ago when I first started to coach. And as we talked about the Kolbe, I'm a 3 fact finder, 3 follow through, 9 quick start, and 5 implementer. My wife's a 7 fact finder, 7 follow through, a 2 quick start, and a 4 implementer. And so I think it kind of saved our marriage in a lot of ways because our children are both high quick starts as well and low fact finders and follow through. My wife said she felt like a fish out of water with everybody there. But the fact that we could at least have a way to talk about it and understand how we did it. Because being here like I am today, this is the last thing she'd want to do. Be up here, sit around talking to people. She said, Gary, how can you do that? Well, I just have a different conative index.
Right. It's interesting. I have a very similar dynamic with my wife. And, not surprisingly, she took her Kolbe Index before we were married.
Good.
So she knew it the whole time, excuse me, but I was doing a talk at a marriage symposium one time, and we hadn't been married all that long. So I was a little unsure of, should I really be up there talking? And I was asking her, okay, well, how has understanding your Kolbe result and mine made a difference for you in our marriage? And she thought about it and said, well, I don't want to kill you. And I thought that was...
I relate to that.
That was a positive. I'm glad that she didn't want to kill me. And her explanation was, if I didn't understand who you were, and it was really all about this follow-through part, that she's structured and systematic, and I'm very open-ended and adaptable. And she thought, if I didn't understand that about you, I would think you didn't care, that you didn't respect me, that you didn't love me enough to do it the way I want it done, or the way she naturally does it. And just that understanding made a huge difference. Don't get me wrong, Kolbe, some people think, some people sometimes want a one-size-fits-all or a silver bullet that will solve all problems. It's not that. So it's still a point of friction sometimes between the two of us, but it also gives us a language, as you were saying, so that she can say to me, sometimes it's, hey, David, this is a really high priority for me. So, and I don't use it as a cop-out. It's not like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to follow the system because I'm a 2 and follow through. And we know how to meet each other. And she knows when to tell me, it may not be natural for you, but this is one of those times I just need you to, get down to work.
And I really pleased you said that, because I got one example of an organization. A gentleman who's been coached for a long time, and I coached them here in St. Louis and in the financial world. And he wanted everybody to be like him, because he thought he had to do all the financial analysis and had to prepare all these things to do all the financing and pieces and the mortgages they would run and the school boards. And I tried very hard and was not successful. You don't want everybody the same.
Right.
And didn't appreciate other people, other talents, even though he needed somebody to put together these beautiful brochures that would be shown to the school boards and be taken, for the elections that needed to be done. And he had somebody on his team who did that, but they had a different Kolbe. And I go, this is a very useful talent to have on your team.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to be, he was sort of like the one size fit all. And I said, that's really hard to get people to think about.
It is hard. And I think, frankly, part of being a great leader is understanding that the greatness comes not when you make everybody be like you, but when you get the most out of who they are. Right. Because really, do you want your entire organization to be like you? And the way I've tried to get people to see it a little differently, people like this guy you're talking about, and we all run into them, is, do you want to do every job in the business? Do you think you'd be great at every job in the business? And the answer, for entrepreneurs is no. They see certain jobs and they're like, I'd never want to do that. Well, then why do you want the person doing that job to do it the way you would? You just said that's not a good fit for you. And then they think, okay, yeah, I kind of get that now. And it helps them understand. And again, that's not a silver bullet either. Sometimes they resist and it takes them a while to really feel it in their heart rather than just hear it.
Yeah. But so one question I want to ask you again with this, and then I want to move it on a little bit, is that my daughter, who's an entrepreneur in her own right, and has joined Coach program, which I'm delighted to have that happen. And she's been hiring someone to be an assistant for her. And she's got a corporate wellness business and understands the whole training side of it, because she was a personal trainer. And she's got this person who's got a mediator profile, all between 4 and 6.
Yep. Love that.
And so the expression has been, if you find one of those, hire them, and then figure out what to do with them. But why would we say that? Because I told her that just last week. I didn't know I was talking to you today. But
and we do the same thing at Kolbe. We love to hire people who are in that mid-range, and it's because they have this amazing ability to swing between the extremes. They're often the unsung heroes in an organization. They're kind of the glue where other people might be arguing over process, it needs to be done like this. No, it needs to be done like that. And the person in that mid-range adapts to both of those and helps the others kind of see, oh, all right, no, I get what you're saying. So they literally mediate sometimes. They sometimes translate, metaphorically speaking. Everyone's speaking English, but they still translate, well, here's what they mean, or here's what you need to hear from the other person. So, and as I was saying, they're often the unsung heroes because they aren't you're 9 in quick start.
I'm a 9 quick start. Yeah.
People see that about you very quickly because it's noticeable
Right.
when you're, and the same thing at the other end of the extreme. If you're a 1 or a 2 in one of the action modes, it's noticeable. But in that mid-range, it's not always noticeable, but they're doing such important stuff inside an organization. It's almost cheating because we understand at Kolbe Corp, if we're hiring somebody like that, they haven't been appreciated as much as they should have been. And when we tell them we see you, we know what you do and why you're going to be so important on their team, like, oh my gosh, I love this. Somebody is actually hearing me, seeing me, appreciating what I'm bringing, and we can poach them.
Well, I'm going to go back and talk to Christy because Christy's a 9 quick start as well, and she's got someone who's working with her who's an 8 fact finder who she calls slow to pick up on things, but once she gets it, it's really good. And she works with a number of women,
Yep.
and a lot of them part-timers, whatever else, with different things that go on because of the nature of her work. And I kind of go, that's a perfect Kolbe to have inside, mixing all of those different personalities, things that go on,
Yep.
the gender and her Kolbes. And I thought, I'm not sure where she is on it, but I'm going to give her a little push when I get back after this.
I think you should. That
I will
sounds
do
great.
that. So let's talk about the future of entrepreneurism. That's really what a lot of this has been about.
Yep.
And so how do you see, I mean, I've seen Kolbe in a lot of ways. Myself and my assistant have both been certified. I'm actually going back for recertification later on, or not recertification, but an update later
Yep.
on that Coach is doing and being there. So how do you see Kolbe going, and you see it in conjunction with the future of entrepreneurs? How do you see that taking place now?
As I was saying before, I think one of the great things about entrepreneurs is they connect so closely with the people they both work with and serve as clients. I think that's going to be even more and more important going forward because sometimes for better, but I think largely for worse, larger organizations more and more these days are becoming, I think the dynamic in technology and how they operate is allowing them to become more disconnected from the people that they serve. And entrepreneurs need to stop that process from going too far. They need to, it's almost fill the gap that's being created in that human connection. And Kolbe's part of helping people understand other humans.
Yes.
It's not everything you need to know. Clearly, you need to know, well, number one, you just need to know your business and what you're offering, and that's the most important part. But we help people understand themselves. We help people understand the people they work with and serve. So, I'm excited about helping entrepreneurs who are going to be more and more important as time goes on to prevent, at a really societal level, prevent these large organizations from being disconnected from the people that they're supposed to be serving and kind of telling people, well, this is what has to happen. And entrepreneurs, they listen way better than large organizations.
So all the pushes right now is about AI and that technology. So how do you, and I just came out of a session where a technology session where they felt that bigger companies were actually better positioned for you taking advantage of AI, maybe because it's so costly and timing. But how do you see the impact? Is there an impact that Kolbe can have in keeping with AI coming in for entrepreneurs? How do you see, have you thought about that?
What the impact we're thinking a lot about it.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So, and that is one of the things, and that's one of the technologies. There's also tons of regulation that's causing big businesses to have advantages sometimes over smaller companies, just in terms of how much investment you need to do to get up and running and to keep running and comply with stuff. And so yes, implementing AI. So for us, well, number one, just as a small business, we're 32 people right now. Sure,
we do a hell of a lot for 32 people.
We do a lot.
Amazing.
We do a lot with that.
Congratulations.
But we need to implement AI to make our business more efficient so that we can compete and continue to serve our clients and do it profitably. We're also figuring out, okay, how can we use AI to deliver new, novel, and better services? So even things that we're already doing, how can we improve on that using AI systems? I'm both a skeptic and an adherent for AI. I think that we need to be very mindful of the way it's used, and I would never want the human part taken out completely. And I think we're a number of years away from that really being practical anyway, but I hope it doesn't happen.
Well, I can understand you being a skeptic because basically the way that the Kolbe assessment goes is based on an algorithm.
Yeah,
and that's been my understanding the basis for.
Well, that's less the skeptic. That's kind of the adherent. It's We start, depending on how, and it's not really artificial intelligence the way we do, but in a real way. So Kathy Kolbe, my mom, the founder and creator of the Index, the way she started doing it was she just individually would observe somebody doing stuff, and she would then tell them do different things, so that she would put them in a situation where she could learn their behavior and draw conclusions from it. And it was all in her mind. And she realized, if I want to make this scalable, I've got to figure out a way that it can be scored by a computer, essentially, or originally by hand and then by computers. So it did transition from her brain to kind of machine-capable stuff, which is essentially how AI works. It's figuring out, well, what is a human brain doing? What's it analyzing? And then what's the output that we should come? So we've been doing it in a that small way. So that's the, yeah, I see the benefit, and there are great things, and it doesn't have to be scary and dangerous as long as we're using it well.
But you didn't, what you said was really important about it still being humanized and the human part's there, because that part you didn't take away.
Yeah.
You're just able to analyze it, okay, or categorize it in a way that mimic and the results could give you an understanding, a mimicking of the human behavior
right.
you had.
Yeah. And I think one of the, for now, key differences is AI is still not great about deciphering kind of what's useful and helpful versus just what it can put together and sound not just coherent, but good. It can look at a whole bunch of data and summarize it for you, but it doesn't, at least yet, do a good job of figuring out, but what's the best part of this information? What's going to be most helpful for Gary?
Yeah, well, you know, an expression that I've used for a number of years, even before this, was we need to be high tech and high touch.
Yeah.
And I view the opportunity to bring in things like AI to still make us more high tech, but now it gives us the opportunity for humans to do what we're really good at doing.
Right.
And so I see Kolbe as fitting into that and saying, oh, let's, maybe even more important, because now we can then free up our human capacity and our human capabilities to do the things that machines just simply can't do, which is the relationships with other people and that kind of communication.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, some of AI is going the opposite direction. It's taking over the fun things, like the creating new music or art, and it's leaving behind some of the work that we don't necessarily want to do. So that's another thing. I'm hoping we can turn that ship a little bit.
Yeah, and I can see, I played around with the, Perplexity and some other, the ChatGPTs, and I find it fascinating, and some of the things that can be done as once you've asked the right question to get the thought starters. But I still think, maybe for the time being, maybe over time of my career, I don't know, I'm going to live for a while, but it's over my career, that we'll still have that, more important, the human part.
Yeah, I think we will.
And
I
understand
agree.
that part. So, David, as you look forward for Kolbe and for the future of entrepreneurs, and what do you see, and what kind of advice and thoughts would you have as we look out here now over the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question. So 5 to 10 year time horizon. I think
you
it's
shorten it if you want. But
no, that's great. I'm happy with 5 to 10 years. I think advice for entrepreneurs is keep focused on growing, learning, getting better. That's always true, but in the context, especially of talking about AI and changes that are coming in terms of the way business runs, the time cycle for being able to be successful and kind of sit and rest and collect those profits, that's such a short time. And you can do that, but if you rest for long at all, you don't just fall behind, but you kind of fall completely behind. Like you almost to the point where you can't catch up. So, be curious, learn things, adopt new practices, new technologies, and but don't lose sight of what you're already great at. I think so many people think, oh, well, this is sexy, let's just do everything differently. Well, don't do everything differently. Keep what's great. Adopt what will make you better.
Well, and I think the key part is that hopefully through all of this that we can continue to understand ourselves better.
Yeah.
Because I've coached a couple thousand entrepreneurs over time, and that's one of the biggest challenges that everybody got. They don't understand who they are, they don't understand what they do best, and I believe Kolbe plays a role in helping us, along with unique ability, and finding those things that make life a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically our mission right there, is helping people understand the part of themselves that drives their success and then learn how to tap into it so they can achieve the things they care about. What they care about changes over time, but what drives their success, frankly, doesn't. Like, once you learn it, just keep with it and then apply it to different things over time when you decide, you know what, that's not what I'm interested in anymore, or that business isn't going to be profitable because the market has changed. Great, but stick with who you are.
So what's next for David?
You know, in a personal way, here's the personal way. My youngest two kids started college a little over a year ago, so I'm kind of going through the process of becoming an empty nester. It's a process.
They're always your children, remember that.
Yes, they're always, I believe me, I know that too. But they aren't living at home and taking up the same kind of time and attention. So between that happening, and my wife has been extremely busy. She took on essentially 2 full-time jobs. She's not going to have 2 full-time jobs anymore. So we're trying to figure out, what are we going to do with the free days that we're actually going to have now,
Awesome.
which are fantastic. So it's a great problem to have.
Good.
And professionally, I love what I do, so I'm just going to keep doing what I do.
There's no reason to stop that.
Yeah.
Any last words for us, David? For
really just thank you, and thanks to Coach. We've been blessed to be part of the mission Coach has been on for 30 plus years, and so I love hearing somebody like you who said, I learned it, it's made a difference in my life, so thanks to you and Coach.
Well, thank you, and it's made a difference for me, not only personally, but professionally. So I really appreciate it, and I get to know you. I know, as I said, I've known other members of the family, so I'm glad we had a chance to connect. So
Thanks for having me.
thank you very much, David.